We're spraying food over. Well, that means we can spread out over here.
Are you gonna get rowdy? We can do that.
I didn't hear where it's recording. I think the volume is too loud. So it's 3 o'clock. Today is Wednesday, February 5th. The time is 3 p.m. and we are going to start this council work session. Now is time for public comments. So this comment period is an essential part of government meetings. Everyone that would wish to speak has 3 minutes. Please keep it to your 3-minute period because we definitely have a large agenda to get through today. Also, make sure that you please put your information in the back of the room. City administrator and staff will be taking notes for any action items that will need to be followed up on, and we can't do that if you don't put your information down. When you come up, please give your name for the record, and we'll open up for the first person who would like to come up and speak. We'll all run up at the same time.
Steve Topaz. Today, I'm going to discuss keeping records. We'll start off with a old Greek thought. When you have something to say, silence is a lie. I was looking at the agenda the last meeting in December, and there was some information about stabilizing the embankment, 130, 183 foot funds, something involving the council. So I went back to check, and that part of the agenda is missing. Seems like electronically things come and go, so one doesn't have a record of what actually is happening. Now, more recently, we've had a city economic opportunities analysis. Basically 7 quick pages to read. Actually, the paper was 87 pages. And there are a number of things in it that makes you wonder. It talks about the opportunity of using mixed-use development on the waterfront, about the huge amount of land we have for heavy industry on the waterfront, our waterfront itself, industrial park. And yet nothing seems to take into account the DEQ said that the contamination on the waterfront is they're going to cover it over and you can't use it. The other part that especially having to do with the creosote plant, Pope and Talbot, which has been going on 25 years. In June of 24, the DEQ came up with a $25 million price tag and how to fix the Pope and Talbot place. Basically dug everything out, cleaned up a few things and put in a membrane wall so the creek or the stream out in front of it didn't get stuck. In September, DEQ came by with a $30 million plan to cover up the contaminated, seal everything in place, not remove anything, and make it unusable for commercial use. Also in this plan, there was a discussion of a number of the sewage basins are overloaded or at capacity. They did not mention the DEQ report that Boise's Sykes Road waste disposal group is dumping 5,000 gallons of contaminated material into that sewer line. And yet, just recently, there were 2 notices that the city is putting some information or actually requiring Pacific Stainless Steel and Lydia to clean up their act because they're dumping stuff into the sewer that shouldn't be. The another part of this report showed that, and it looks like when you look at their map, this is a landslide map, places you can't build on. This is a landslide map. The landslide area under the lagoon was missing from the map.
Steve, are you almost, like, I don't want to interrupt, but are you almost
Done.
can you just wrap it up, please?
But the real point, well, we're going to get into freedom of speech one of these days. One of the problems, though, is that information is coming and going yet. It's all publicly available. And this report is supposed to be read by outside people, and they'll check on the other reports. The other piece of information that's kind of peculiar is there's 650 or 50 square miles in Columbia County. 52% of that is owned by 4 timber companies. Only 25% of this county is privately owned.
Okay, Steve, we really, I don't
Yeah,
want to
I
interrupt
know.
you because I appreciate the freedom of speech, but we are past our 3 minutes, so I need.
I know we are. I know we are. So the real problem is this information that is being disseminated is not correct. That's responsibility of the council, which we're trying to cut off now. The last part of the Greek thought pattern, who does not know the truth is a fool, yet who knows the truth and calls it a lie is a criminal. And I think we better clean up our act about correct information, especially when the other information is available to the public through other agencies.
I do appreciate your comment though, Steve. Who's next? 3 minutes.
Brady Preheim. I'm still waiting to hear your public apology to John. You were public about condemning him, and I think you owe him a public apology. That's not actually a sign of weakness. It would be a sign of strength to actually admit that you had made a mistake. I also want to comment that you have on your agenda today about media, and you don't even list Kohai on there as a media under radio stations. They are literally the only local media left in this county. Spotlight does not have a location anymore here. Chronicle is closed. The only local media is in fact Kohai, and you don't even list them. And of course, then I want to talk about the long-awaited report on Chief Greenway that needs to get released. Where's it at? I've been in public records for it. Should be released. It's funny how the mayor wants to be accountable and transparent unless it concerns you. And then suddenly you don't want to be transparent or accountable. Then I want to also talk about the police station, since you have that scheduled later this evening. And a meeting on it with the planning commission, and you don't have public comment, which I think is a mistake. You should always have public comment. I support the police. I don't support the police station. Simply an item that we cannot afford. Couldn't afford it from the beginning. Obviously, the station has been long neglected. There are lots of other cost-effective solutions that would do it. Ask Russ, why don't you, what he could do with $3 million to our existing police station. Those are way more cost-effective for a station that now with inflation is probably going to be $40 million that we cannot afford. And speaking of police, you have not even yet announced the vacancy of the chief of police. I think Chief Hogue is doing a great job, and you need to get that done with, and he needs to be made permanent. And it needs to be announced. Then I also want to talk about your stipends, which you have on there. I really don't mind your stipends, frankly. You're one of the only ones in the entire state that gets a stipend, but I would like to feel that I'm earning my money. And right now I'm not. I don't feel that way. So if you're going to continue to get your stipend, please do your jobs. And lastly, I want to say that I fully support Habitat for Humanity. I know that they are obviously they request variance to build a house. I think they do great work. And I would hope that you would support them in that endeavor. Thanks.
My name is Lori Armstrong, and I would like to offer up a prayer that I felt the Holy Spirit give to me to pray for the city council, as well as pray for.
Speak up.
Yeah, my voice doesn't carry. Can you turn the mic up a little bit?
I think the microphone actually comes right down here. So if you stand behind there or sit at the seats, microphone
Is
is
that
right.
better? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I would like to offer up a prayer. But I would like to pray for you guys first, if that's okay. And so anyway, here we go. Let's just, if you don't pray, that's fine. If you want to pray, close your eyes and listen to the words that are spoken. So Holy Spirit, we just thank you, God, for your presence here. Lord, and I lift up every board member here in St. Helens, the city council board members, Lord. And I pray that the light of your love, God, would just reach into each one of these hearts, that you would bring your presence into their lives, your goodness, of your love, Lord, and your guidance, Lord, as they, are running this city for the residents and the community, Lord. So Father, thank you for my city, for our city. Thank you for the people that live in the city, people that you love deeply, people that you knew before the creation of this earth. You knew each one of us intimately and blessed us all with beautiful giftings and destinies. Father, this city belongs to you. So I declare and proclaim your promises over this city. All of your goodness, all of your truth, all of your justice, all of your beauty, all of your protection, all of your love, and all of your joy. Let all of your promises rule and reign here. And Father, bring to the people a deep sense of hope and revelation of your truth and your real authority throughout St. Helens and Columbia County. We will not tolerate the counterfeit because we know he only brings destruction, and he can bring that through an open door. We shut that door down through the powerful, mighty name of Jesus. Give us discerning hearts moving forward, Holy Spirit. Father, I partner with all of heaven for your will to be done on this earth as it is in heaven over our city. Father, you are such a good Father. You are the healer of our hearts, and you are the restorer, making everything brand new and beautiful as we turn our eyes onto you. Heavenly Father, I declare your true nature and character to be revealed to the hearts that are listening today. We give you all the glory and all the praise in Jesus' powerful, mighty name. And Father, I do want to lift up a prayer for the police as we move forward, Father. I want to send your host right now to protect the police, Father, as they do their duty in this city, as they are protectors for this city. I pray that you go before them, you be their front, their back, side, top, bottom guard, Lord, to protect them from any attack, Lord, that is not from you. And I just thank you, God, for this opportunity. And I thank you for everybody here. In Jesus' name, amen.
name is Ron Tromlitz. I don't consider myself an educated individual. I'm educated by life. I asked Steve Topaz about AI and its function. AI seems to be a super search engine. And I suddenly decided to use the record search to provide the answers for the 2 million gallon reservoir rehabilitation failure. I find that the AI is limited in information to information released. I can't disclose when the city uses silence. With W449 began with Sue Nelson and Neil Shepard and Kennedy Jenks. The designed plan promoted a repair to the council with no prior testing of concrete versus surfaces, no due diligence. Compare that to a doctor's plan. He desires testing, MRIs, CAT scans, biopsies, therefore, before determining treatment. Now that's due diligence. October 1st, 2016, the city began Kennedy Jenks's plan. Reservoir leaking 16,000 gallons per day. AI can't disclose the city didn't know access for the plan designer and the bidders to explore reservoir's condition and disclose the loss increased to 74,000 gallons per day. May 17th, 2017, city reservoir had a leak. When the leak was fixed, the loss was reduced to 42,000. The city hired VIC to seek out the loss of 42,000 gallons per day. AI can't disclose the information that VI's investigation will reveal. VIC notes that there is a lack of oversight during the application of the GI textile liner. The city's inspector was Tim Underwood. AI doesn't acknowledge VIC's leading a group of city employees, techs, and participating contractors to view the reservoir's work. AI didn't record the consensus of all parties that the liner was not the source of the excessive water loss. It doesn't have the searchability that an individual. The city claims that the failure was WPI's workmanship. And this begins 30 months of litigation. March 1st, 2022, the city hired Walker Consultants to investigate the cause and responsibility for the 2MG reservoir rehabilitation. AI makes no vote. AI doesn't acknowledge the water, John Walsh signing the April 2022 settlement and Act Mutual Release Agreement. AI doesn't have knowledge of the contents of the signing report. John Waltz, by signing the resettlement, exonerates WPI, Carboline, and Kennedy Jinks. The document states that the parties have no liability for the rehabilitation failure. You can't discredit Walker's Consultants report contents to the success of the settlement. March 23rd, 23. I filed for a copy, almost at the end, I'm sorry. For a copy of the Walker report. Enough times that the city attorney sent me a notice saying that adamantly I would not going to receive a copy. It is not unreasonable that I desire the report's contents because of the responsibility. Cause and responsibility. The denial of transparency breeds distrust with John Walsh withholding information. To be continued. I'm sorry for my language.
Thank you. State the comment.
Hi, Sean Carnahan, 35268 First Street, and here to discuss the property that the school district has purchased. I'm one of the 4 residences that are along the property line. And there's been some issues. One, they've been out there disrupting the land, which obviously takes away from the natural drainage field, causing the water drainage. Instead of going to Furlock Park Boulevard, now it's coming into the properties. School district tried taking down the fence, which on this notice of decision, which is dated in July of 2015 or July 15th, 2021, clearly states that they have to have a security fence with proper, what's the word I'm looking for, boundaries. And I got a hold of Jacob at planning, and he got a hold of the facility manager, Jared, and they recently put the fence back up. But again, my issue is that, you know, the school district's just doing whatever they want without taking into consideration the 4 residential houses that are there. That's all I have. Please, I would ask that the council have planning, have a better thumb on what the school district is doing with that property. Because if you look at the Oregon Department of State Lands, all that is wetlands. If you look on their map. You can't do it without special permits. Thank you.
Amanda McFerrin, 35262 First Street. I also have lived in that area for 28 years. I have personally no problem with the potential of the police station being put at the other end of the property. My issues are with the water flow. The topography of that land our ground is solid clay. One, two, there's been like 3 people immediately in that area. I have a private sewer line that I had to fight for in that area because of the septic systems. Excessive water flow from disrupting the land without proper drainage is going to sink people living there. Their drain fields won't work. Sorry. Having been one of those people that was told my home would be condemned if I didn't get it. I fought to get my house fixed. I don't want them to fight because their drain fields failed. Because nobody took into consideration the water and what happens to those drain fields that can't handle the natural rain that's already there. So I urge you guys to make sure when you make whatever decisions you're going to do with that property, that you take that into consideration. I spent $130,000 in 2001 to fix my home. You can't do it to them. You can't.
My name's Sylvia Cole, 35261 First Street. I'm these guys' neighbors, and a couple of years ago, I had a problem with my septic. I came to the city planners because I was told by Aaron O'Connell that I couldn't have it done, various reasons. And we went round and round, came to the city planners because that's where they instructed us to go. And they told us, well, since we're not annexed into the city, let's annex you. $1,200 check, and then you can do exactly what Amanda did, which is punch a line on into the sewer system. And before I wrote the check, my partner, my boyfriend, asked, well, when can we start getting a contractor and everything set up to get this taken care of? And they said, oh, we're not going to approve that for you. And we're like, well, why not? You just said that was the way to fix this. And they said, oh no, the infrastructure is so bad that we can't even punch you a line in there. Go across the street and ask them if you can punch into theirs, which I'm not even going to do that to somebody because that was not the deal. But anyway, $40,000 later, I had to hire an environmental specialist and go through all these hoops to finally get my septic, because they did want to condemn my house, my viable, perfectly good on a half an acre right next to where you guys want to put the police station, which I don't have a problem with either. But please make sure you do your diligence with where the water's going to be going so that it doesn't come on my property or their property and just mess up a whole neighborhood of probably 20 houses. So I'm just here to also be support for my neighbors, and but I hope you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Marcy Sanders, and I'm a small business owner down here in the River District. I live in Columbia County, and I'm also on the St. Helens Main Street Alliance Board. And I just wanted to reiterate our concerns about both as a business owner and as a board member, our concerns about the imminent closure of the intersection here at First and St. Helens. We still don't know when that's going to happen and for how long it's going to happen. And we just want to make sure that there are accommodations for our customers and our staff to, as well as us, to be able to get down here safely and easily to access our businesses and keep retail businesses who are struggling after 2 years of this construction afloat. It's just getting long and hard, and we just want to make sure, I know there's some efforts afoot to maybe do some promotions during that time. That's great, but let's make sure that there's parking for people, as well as it's easy to find how to get down here. So thank you. Marcy.
Anyone else? Is there anybody on Zoom?
Steve Toskey.
Steve, can you, a sec. Okay. Steve, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I wanted to talk about the resolution concerning the media. And I read carefully the proposed resolution, and I've also read the 2024 Attorney General, the updated basis for the law. And of course, I am concerned about the ability of the public to be lawfully attuned to the goings on of the council. And I wanted to let you know, first of all, that I've withdrawn my media credentials as of today, because Town Talk Cafe is no longer, at least at this time, reporting on the news. So the fact that you were generous enough to provide me with that privilege, which I never used, I nevertheless have withdrawn, because I said I would withdraw it when we didn't report on the news. We might in the future, and if we did, we would apply. I see where the Attorney General's trying to head with this thing, and I see the concerns of the council. I think council for the city might be chiming in on this. And about the only concern I have with the current statutory structure is that that under the exception in subsection C, if someone is not affiliated with an official news media, they should have a staff. I think that's something that if someone's dedicated to getting out the news regularly, getting it out all the time, and can demonstrate the other factors, and they're in the business of reporting the news, I'm thinking requiring staff is something that is not logically attached to whether or not the person is accountable as an organized news media. So I'd ask that the council reconsider that requirement when it considers whether it's going to adopt this new policy. And last, I will say that I do believe that Cohi should be included as a under the radio as an approved media organization, having been involved with the city since 1940. And I think Marty's been running and doing the news every day for 22 years. I'm sure that's something you guys thought would come up, would be discussed. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? All right. So we are going to move on to our discussion topic number 1, which is employee length of service recognition. I'm happy to announce that we have an employee that has reached a milestone in their employment with the city of St. Helens. The following individual, the following individual, so Sam, he's being recognized today. He started working with the city on January 13th, 2020 as our pre-treatment coordinator, and he still serves today. So thank you so much for your service, Sam, and congratulations. Forgot the certificate or something?
Oh, forgot to do the certificate, so I'm sorry. I really.
Hold up.
Handshake. Yeah, you can. City. All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Sam. Your certificate. Suitable for a wall frame. Action item number 2 is recognition of police officers Jonathan Sprinzel and Brandon Haflish for successfully passing their probationary period. Haflish. I said it, Haflick. I should know that. I went to school with my kids. I should know that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Good afternoon. I wanted to give some recognition and talk about some progress with the police department. You know, one might look at this and say, well, geez, they just passed probation, but it's anything but that. It's a big deal. About 1 in 3 historically don't make it to this point. That these two officers have made it. Plus, we talk all the time about the delays in training with COVID in the academy. And so this was awkward for these two officers. They had to just wait and wait to go to the academy, which you don't want to progress their training so much that they go to the academy and lose everything that you taught them. So this was really one-time deal. I don't think this will hopefully not ever happen again. So we had to really extend their training and extend their probation to no fault of theirs. We just couldn't get them through the academy in time. But you know what? These guys never complained. They never doubted or asked questions, and they're doing great. They're on their own and on patrol at night and doing a fantastic job. So I wanted to recognize that achievement because it is a big deal, but that attitude and that perseverance is exactly what we're looking for. And we're talking about, hey, not everybody can work here, and there's a process to this and it takes a while. Well, this is what it looks like at the end when people are successful. So I want to first introduce you to, your native son, Officer Brandon Hayflick.
Can we just take a picture with him in front here? With you
I
and
did the interview with
Yeah.
you.
You did.
Saying, he was very good.
So can we take a picture with them just in the front here?
Yeah, I was gonna do with all of them, or do you want individual?
Can we do both?
Yeah.
That way they have them suitable for their walls for framing. Are you gonna stand up or sit?
Yeah, everybody.
Don't
needs to
stand up, you're not gonna. sit. Like,
You tell us where to go.
Yeah.
Get a little closer.
Let's get cozy.
Want to be in it? I'm gonna have to stagger.
ready?
Okay. Yep. And of course, we talk about the need for hiring laterals, and that's great. And we'll continue to look and explore all of those. But here's a local guy who's doing a great job, and so that brings me into our next officer. He has ties to Columbia County. We actually got him. He was working. He has an aviation background, and so he was over in Phoenix, Arizona, working at the airport. I had a pretty important job over there, but he wanted to come back to Columbia County and St. Helens, and so we didn't want to pass on that. So Officer Jonathan Sprinsel.
Sit down if you're taking a picture. Oh, yeah. And we can all take one. Like photos, not you.
I like photos.
I'm trying to make Chris
Crystal
happy.
definitely likes photos.
Yeah, no, this.
Yeah, you're gonna have, to go this way. You're gonna like jump there. Can you use? Yeah. Or stand a little now. Yes, perfect. There. Now I can see everybody. All right, ready?
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Okay, we've got one more. I'm a little biased on this one, but one of our sergeants has been approved to attend the FBI National Academy. This is a big deal. Only about 1% of officers in the United States get approved to go to this. And it's actually an international program. And it's really one of the pride and joys of the FBI. And we're really, really fortunate for an agency this size to have this opportunity. So Sergeant Jose Castilleja will be attending the FBI. Shake some hands.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
So you got your hair cut for the occasion?
I did.
How many people have gone through the first sergeant? That's right.
That is not. I did. The treatment when he was with it. Yeah.
Up, down. Oh, yeah. We're getting our work today. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. there you go.
Okay.
Really hard for a sergeant to get into the FBI National Academy, extremely hard. So his job duties and his accomplishments really are what was able to do that. So a big deal for the city.
Thank you for sharing too, Joe. Right. Love all the celebrations. That's good stuff. All right, moving on to item number 3. So the annual report from the city auditor.
He's online. I'm trying to promote him and oh, there he comes. And just so you know, Brandon is online.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on the picture either.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, great. Thanks a lot for having me. Just a quick introduction. I'm Connor Delaney, Senior Manager in charge of field work for the City of St. Helens 2023-24 financial audit. And I have a couple reports to present to you guys today. If I have the ability to share, I think I do. I'm going to send a request here to share. And I can pull up the report on my screen here. All right, let's see. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm pleased to present for the first time under our new accounting firm, Clear Trail CPAs, the City of St. Helens annual audit report. It's the same audit team, same partners, same employees that was under Polly Rogers. This is the first year that we've moved, starting as of January 21, to a new accounting firm. So on page 1 of the financial report, this is kind of the main event for the whole audit, is our opinion letter on the annual audit. And kind of starting right at the top, basically in the first paragraph, we say, in our opinion, or in the second paragraph, sorry, we say, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects, in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and that is essentially what is known as a unmodified opinion. It's a clean opinion on the financial statement, so it's the best opinion we can provide on the financials. Kind of just a quick background about how we are able to provide our opinion after working on the audit throughout the year. We have an initial audit procedure that early on in the year we come out, talk to staff, update our understanding on the city's processes. We also sample transactions. We look at bank records, payroll records, receipts and deposits, expenses, credit card transactions, kind of a sampling of everything, all transactions that flow through the financial system, and make sure everything is well documented. And I should also take a minute to say thank you to Gloria and all the staff in the finance department, as well as any staff in any other department that we requested information from throughout the audit. Everything was really well organized and timely provided, so we thank everyone for their efforts in that. So there's just some additional information, and the opinion is kind of just a standard letter. Another letter that we provide that is included in the report is the auditor's report required by Oregon state regulations. So this is a separate set of procedures that we're required to do specifically by the state of Oregon. Typically, it's mainly related to the adoption, making sure that the city's following the laws related to the adoption of the budget. There's certain other things we look at in terms of the city's insurance coverages, spending under the highway funds program, things of that nature. There were only a few comments we had, mainly regarding the budget. There are a few, if you look in the financial statements in the general fund, there are a few line items that were overspent based on the appropriations. Although when you add up all the departments as a whole, the city was well under budget. But just the state requires us to comment if there's any items over budget, so kind of a minor thing, it's pretty common. A few pages down, then we have a section on our federal audit. We were required to, since the city had a significant amount of federal money, mainly because of the COVID grant in 23-24, we're required to do an additional federal programs audit, and our reports on those start on page 70. And everything was clean and good in regard to the federal audit. So all good news there. We also provide a separate letter to the governing body, kind of provides an overall summary of the audit process. Essentially, this is just basically kind of general information on what the audit is intended to accomplish for the year and the results, basically what I just went over. There are a couple additional items at the end of the report, some information on upcoming new governmental accounting standards. I'm sure everyone's super interested in those, but probably not, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to go over them. And then we have comments on best practices at the end. These are general comments that we're actually providing this year to all entities, governmental entities that we audit. General comment on FTE in the finance department. It's just basically reminding council or any governing body that just due to the nature of constantly increasing regulations in terms of governmental accounting requirements and compliance with various grants. There's been a bunch of new grants that came up in the last few years, mainly due to COVID, but there's a lot of compliance that goes into those. So just we've noticed that there are some clients that unfortunately don't have enough FTE to keep up with all these evolving regulations. So just something to kind of keep an eye on there. And also separate to that, there's unfortunately, it's kind of a unfortunate situation where combined with the new regulations, there's also statewide an accounting shortage. So you really just want to make sure you're on top of, in terms of staffing, making sure that everyone is essentially covered in terms of what they're able to do in the accounting department, and make sure that everyone's compensated appropriately so that you can keep the good employees that you have. So it's one of those things that's kind of it's been a vicious cycle in the industry throughout the last 4 or 5 years, unfortunately. So just something to keep an eye out for. So that's my general presentation for everyone. I can stop the share now. If you have any questions specific to the report, I'd be happy to answer any of those.
Have any questions? Council President Chilton?
I don't know.
Counselor.
No, we're under budget.
Okay.
What to say?
Counselor
Just
Hubbard?
got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read every page.
I'm waiting for you and your questions.
I actually didn't have any. I literally read it from cover to cover, and I thought it was a really comprehensive report. So I think you did really well on this one.
Thank you. We really appreciate when people actually do read it. That's
I
unfortunately,
did
it's more rare than you would think.
I did read it. I did have a few questions, but they were already answered. So thank you for that. Counselor Sandin, do you have any questions?
No questions. I thought it was well put together and appreciate your work.
Great. Thank you very much.
No. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Shout out to Gloria and her team for the good work in supporting the audit and coming through with flying colors. So we're still not out of the woods yet financially, but general fund, but get there. So.
Yes, thank you, Gloria. I was actually doing some research on that actually, and how often, because I saw the comment on, people not working well with the auditors, and that is more common than I would have anticipated. So it's nice seeing how we were commended on that. All right, so we are on to action item number 4. So the financial report, second quarter of fiscal year 24-25.
So just kind of like a highlight of this report, you've had it in your packet, so I won't read it to you. I've added the tourism fund into the report just because it's kind of one of those items that is receiving a lot of attention amongst our community, and so putting it out there so that everybody can see it. The tourism, especially the Halloween Town event, performed very well considering the short turnaround time that Treadway had. And it's proceeding to perform really well. We've repaid the interfund loan that we got to open the Awana account. We did not anticipate to be able to repay that interfund loan as quickly as we did. So that is wonderful news. Other than that, if you've got questions, I am happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, I didn't have any. I'm really glad that you included the tourism report so that everyone could see, and I'm happy to know that the numbers check out.
Yeah, and you know, if in the future you want something else added, if there's something that that you're hearing that and are curious about and wanting to have more information on, let me know and I'll add it in.
I wanted to say thank you for your prompt response to questions.
Sure.
that I've had. That was very quick and I appreciate the clarification on those. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to answer questions quickly. It helps all of us.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm happy to hear everything.
Counselor Sundin, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Gloria.
All right. So we are on to item number 5. So the annual report from the city forester. Oh.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Brett Keller. I'm with Mason, Bruce and Gerard. We're a natural resource consulting firm from Portland. We've been around since 1921 and we've managed the city of St. Helens, Milton Creek watershed forest land since 2006. So this will be the 20th year. And so we look forward to hopefully 20 more years. I want to review what we did in 2024, look at 2025 activities, little rundown of the current saw log market. Yeah, look at the management planning and like forest inventory currently out there and the outlook going forward. In 2024, I think the highlight of the forest program was selling the Section 20 timber sale at the end of last October. It was sold to Interfor. It's a 2-year contract or almost a 2-year contract, expires the end of July 2026. It's about 90 acres, right at 2.5 million board feet. You should realize right at $1.5 million in estimated revenue. And you got a real good price, about $609 per 1,000 board feet for the Douglas fir. The stumpage, I'll just briefly explain. Stumpage is net of logging and hauling. So if you called up Interfor, they might be paying $800 delivered, but that does not include any logging yet. That's like their gross price. So this is net of that. So if you back into, I immediately see that and go, oh, that's an $850 log. It's a real good price because that's also camp run for all the sorts because the mill will pay so much for certain lengths, diameters, and so on. This price you get is for all the wood, regardless of the size or even quality. So that's a real good price. You can see on page 6 where this sale is located. It's like right in the middle of the map in the northern section there. The lavender symbology there shows the unit right on the property line. We had to get a survey done before selling that. And then you can see on page 3 of my little packet here, rundown of the failed bid history since we started doing stumpage sales in 2012. So we're averaging right around $600 a thousand. I think the highest sale was in 2018. So you can see this year's sale was right up there as well. So we've done a real good job at hitting peaks in the market over the years. Also last year, we did a bunch of reforestation first part of the year. We first planted the salmon harvest unit entirely. And that's also on the timber sale history map, page 6. And then partially planted the Pinckney Road sale. We had extra seedlings, so we just went, I mean, that unit was ready to be planted, so we just went ahead and planted part of it at about 60 acres. So headed into 2025, we'll look to reforest the rest of that here in the next probably month or so. Seedlings were right on track to get lifted at nurseries with the dry weather. Well, now we've got all this weather again, so we're kind of waiting around for the seedlings to come out of the ground. Once those are out of the ground and sorted and packed, then we can go to work planting. Of course, then there's a lot of things in play. Hopefully then the weather on the ground is good and we can get them in the ground. That should happen here in the next month. So, and that'll finish up the reforestation of Pinckney Road. Talking to Interfor, they plan, and that could change because they have some flexibility with the longer contract, but they plan to begin the harvest in August of the sale that was recently sold. So that's the schedule there. Pre-commercial thinning is a project that's built into that Section 20 timber sale, and that's 80 acres. If you look on, I believe it's page 5, you can see the location of that. It's in the north part of the ownership. It's about 21 years old. And that's about the right timing for the pre-commercial thin. It's overstocked now. It's about 350 or 400 trees per acre. We would thin that down to 200 to 250. And what you're doing there is really redistributing the volume from a bunch of trees to fewer trees. And so you're going to get in the next 20 years more radial growth. The stand won't slow down. And some stands will self-thin themselves, or some trees will get dominant and thin out the weaker trees, but this helps that process along, and you're assured of a healthy, vigorous stand going forward. And then another critical treatment we have that needs to be done, and it was in the salmon timber sale unit, which I believe was 2022. It's the furthest south, furthest southern unit on that timber sale history map. And that was planted. Seedlings are doing great. We've done stocking surveys out there. And so it's a healthy plantation, but now we've had a lot of Scotch broom come in, which is an invasive species, and will completely take over there and make it a really tough plantation to thrive. So that's the one case where we use herbicides and spray in the city of St. Helens property, just because it's the best way to attack it. And they are invasive species, so I think it's appropriate to do that. Otherwise, we're pretty strictly non-herbicide treatment. It's not part of our toolbox for silviculture like it would be in like an industrial property where it's real common. The only time we've ever used it here is for Scotch broom. So that would be planned for June when that Scotch broom is in bloom. That's the best time to attack that. Another 2025 activity is I've talked about this management plan we're working on. That we're just finalizing that currently. I'm hoping there'll be opportunity to present that to the city council next few months, sometime hopefully. And that's just a nice document to have where we document the management history, outline the current management policies and guidelines and goals and objectives. And we have a plan, and we work within the context of the recreation out there and the goals of the city and the ecological things. But I'd like to get that documented so it's counselors maybe come and go, or public has questions. You've got something to pull down and say, okay, this is our policy. This is approved by council. This is the program. So It's not just in my head. Got it actually in a document, so that is just about complete. That it would definitely be complete this year. I think basically within a month we'll have that done, so. Looking at a timber market, currently, prices went down during 2024, but then have come back up, so they're pretty much identical to what they were at this time last year, right in the $650 to $800 per thousand board foot range. And they've continued to step up since the end of last summer. The type of log you have is a smaller log at this point, like a 5 to 15 inch diameter range. That's the type of material in St. Helens forest land. So we've climbed up since last summer. Just looking at the current trend here. Something I've talked about a lot for the last few years is because of this limited supply of logs now that we're seeing, there's less wood coming out of Canada into the United States. We're generally a net importer of lumber in the United States, and a lot of that comes from Canada, and that's just not going to happen anymore with their moratoriums on harvest up there, and some of the forest disease issues and the fires, and then they've got just a shift in the whole way they're looking at forest management. And most of the land up there is federal or what they call crown land, so it's all government controlled. So they've put more controls on that. So we're not going to see that wood. We had our own fires here. And most of that salvage volume's been harvested. And so that puts a hit on the supply. And then we've had more regulations come in. So in the state of Oregon, practice rules are more restrictive now around stream buffers. So that takes some volume off the market. Then the state lands are going under a habitat conservation plan. So that's going to restrict state wood. So there's just more and more constraints on the supply. So even in a basic, just average housing market that we're in now, or even in a tougher economy like we've seen the last few years, I think log prices are going to remain strong just because there just isn't the supply. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the dynamics of what we see there. Now, if like what's odd is like the export market is really low, really weak. And generally that would track with the domestic market, but because of what I'm describing, the domestic folks are competing amongst themselves without any influence from the exporters. If you saw the export market go way up, all of a sudden China took off, or for whatever reason that changed, you'd see an even higher market here. So that's the situation in general with the local trend in the market. I think as far as like currently, of course, I'm always real conservative. I bet was looking at that graph of what we've got for bids. If you took my predictions, I bet they all track right under that, because I'm always a little gun shy about saying, oh, you'll get 650. But that generally has been the case. I would say now you get in that 400 to 550 range, but would not be out of line, especially right now. As prices around Eugene are seeing like $1,000, $1,200 delivered. Maybe like the $600-700 range would be not uncommon for stumpage. On page 3, you see that history I was referring to. We've done real well here since we started the stumpage sale program. And then looking at management planning, there was a 4-year like hiatus when we pretty much cut all the merchantable timber in 2014. City was looking at different projects and needing revenue, so we did that. And then 2018 started up again, and so since then, I've offered like, okay, well, this is what's available, and pretty much city has wanted to go ahead and do these harvests in the last, I guess it'd be 7 years, 6-7 years. So we've harvested about 60 acres a year since 2018. That's a little over our sustainable goal of about 50 a year. Of course, this is a rolling average. And so if we had a down market, it took a year off or a little less of a cut, we'd be right in line with being sustainable, meaning just that we're only harvesting growth That'd be the definition of what's sustainable. So,
Can I ask you a question? I just have a couple. I didn't know when to chime in really quick,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's for my education. On the replanting, or is it like a 3-to-1 for planting as far as what's the planting strategy? Like Weyerhaeuser, right? They do 3-to-1 up there on their property. So like what's our replanting strategy?
will kind of depend on the size of the timber, but I think in general, when we go to harvest, we're harvesting about 250 trees an acre. And we plant like 450, it'd probably be 2-to-1. It's kind of changed. I know like 30 years ago, you'd have seen a lot of folks planting 660 to the acre. And then interplanting, and then you're thinning, but I think at some point, that's just overkill, so.
I was kind of curious about because of the thinning aspect, right? When you're planting the 3-to-1, then you have a lot more thinning that you
Right.
use so the trees don't
Right.
die.
And I think within 3-4 years, you really want like 300, 350 of those to have lived. And I like a certain amount of density. There's some folks like, well, why don't we, if we want to thin to 250, why don't we just plant 300? Well, you're kind of assuming they're all going to live then. I'd rather kind of overplant and make sure we capture all the stockable areas in a unit.
The deer, not to eat them.
Right, exactly.
And then the last question I had, I tried to do some research because I'm new to the council here, right? And I dove into the stumpage basis versus log basis because I just wanted to better understand that because I'm sure we have citizens that don't understand that term as well. It's new, so I want to make sure that I actually understand. So the basis for the stumpage, it's a lower risk to the city, but we also lose revenue control really because we're not determining when to harvest. That's you, right? That's going to determine when to harvest. Am I correct on that?
They with the stumpage, they have a window like on this a year. I'd like to offer at least 1.5 years, 2 years. It's part of the advantage of the stumpage sale to the buyer.
Okay.
Um,
Because on the contrary, it's higher risk for us. We have to manage, we have to oversee the loggers and.
if you do a log sale, right.
I just want to make sure I understood the dynamic and why we went to stumpage versus managing it in-house, so. You guys probably all knew that, but I had to dive into it, so I
Sure,
get.
we talked about it recently.
But.
Yeah, we talked about that too, but
You asked that because I had that question.
Okay.
and I've been on the soapbox for a long time, but you saw it really clearly in this past year when folks were, when the market got a little tough and then they weren't even interested in logs. They wouldn't maybe even come look at them. Because you're calling up saying, hey, I got 50 loads. Well, I don't want them now. I want them second quarter next year. Doesn't fit now. I can't control the flow of it. You're gonna send 20 loads one day and 4 the next. But if you put up stumpage, you'd see the same buyer that wouldn't even come look at a deck of logs competitively bid on a state sale the next day. And so it was really, I think it's always a better way to go, but in a tougher market, it was clear. Because buyer, and then the prices they'll pay is interesting, because they might quote you like $700 gate price at the mill, but then they'll bid on a stumpage sale with like 600. Well, that doesn't make sense. Shouldn't it be 450 because of the logging? Well, they'll pay such a premium for that flexibility and ability to control the volume and bank on it that way. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question. There's a,
You're pre-thinning any merchantable.
no, they're not merchantable at that time.
What is the time frame from plant to harvest? Maybe I missed it, like general guideline ballpark.
Well, we don't, so because we don't spray, see on an industrial model, if you harvested this year, you plan to spray 2026, the big aerial spraying or whatever, however you spray it. You maybe let the weeds come back, then you'd spray it. Then you plant in 27. Well, since we're not doing that, we want to get in there as soon as we can and plant. Try to get ahead of the grass and the weeds. So we would plant the next year. You have 2 to 3 years to get full stocking in there. So
From there, how long is it till we can send it to market?
oh, I'm sorry,
That's what good.
minimum of 40 years.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Fire breaks up there? Just general question.
Not formally. We have lots of roads and we have we're surrounded by industrial owners, which is good. It's like Weyerhaeuser and folks. So it's, I would say as far as fire mitigation, that's something that'll be in the management plan. But I'd feel real good, peace of mind wise, with who surrounds the property, as far as you're not right against a national wilderness or something that's not managed and volatile for fire, but so yeah, your big industrial neighbors, Weyerhaeuser. So if you see every year where all the fires burn, it's not on industrial land usually, so.
I said one thing. So you said that you mentioned in the beginning that you were gonna come up with kind of a plan that the city council would be involved in and doing some, getting something formalized is what you were saying earlier. So I think that's a good idea because recently I know there's been a lot of talk in the community about concerns about the cutting of trees at Salmonberry and the look of it. And so maybe talking about that again to make sure that we're finding a good balance between the use, the natural, use and the monetary gain of cutting the trees, but also the recreational use of Salmonberry, because it is heavily used by people, which when you're talking about fire, I mean, people are using that property a lot to fish and, swim and do whatever else they're doing up there. So that is something to think about as well. So maybe a good conversation to talk about how we're balancing the use of both of those things and making sure it's safe and, being taken care of up there.
Well, I know when we did the Salmonberry, named that Salmonberry sale, that was one, I know one of the counselors had mentioned that. When I started talking about that area, I had pointed out, hey, we want to make sure we have a good buffer around that. So we had like a 300-400 foot buffer that was something we decided to do. It's not a state regulation or anything. And so if you sit at that lake now and fish, you wouldn't see any of the harvest units. There's a nice buffer around there. So that's one instance of balancing the stakeholders and the uses of the property there. So
I go up there and fish a lot. And so you can
that's cool.
see a little bit of the cutting, and I do hear from people that are not the fondest of the lines out there. So that's why I was just saying, maybe it's a good time to talk about it again and just talk about where we're at and making sure that we're on the same page with, what part of it is to use for recreation and how does that weigh into everything, and then making sure we're just balancing it. So.
Sure. I'm thinking, also in terms of the hunting it's open for. We've taken some measures with your roads there. Like, I think we don't really need that chunk of road. Let's block that road so that folks aren't driving up 200 feet and back and tearing things up, and then, water's running down and into the ditch and mud and stuff. So, but yeah, that's certainly another aspect as well, as that you open it up for hunting. So.
I think that's a great idea, though, what you were saying about kind of having more of a formal plan about and maybe having a time where we can discuss it a little bit further. And I literally wrote down a question that who manages Salmonberry? It's not a designated park of ours, but it is used for recreational use by citizens. So it's interesting to maybe talk about that a little bit more and what that looks like for the future use of Salmonberry.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's interesting to hear that you go out there fishing. So
Yeah, I go up there quite a bit, and a lot of people do. There's a lot of people that go out there during the summer and swim and kayak and all the way around the lake. So, or reservoir water, whatever it's called.
So I'm on page 4 here, looking at the future outlook of the property. It's about a 2,500 acre property. I'd say about 2,100 acres is commercial, available for harvest forest land. Right now, the oldest stands are about 42 years of age. You can see in the graph, there's a little less than 100 or a little less than 200 acres that are age 40. The encouraging thing is, if you look at that 31 to 40 year bar there, that's all going to move into the merchantable class here in the next 10 years. So then you'll have a lot of flexibility with harvest. We've been kind of right up against what's available. We're about to get kind of ahead, and then we do some cutting. And so when all that land moves into that higher class, then you'll have a clear opportunity to do a sustainable annual or at least semi-annual harvest program. And you can see on page 6, that light blue, like the slashes, this kind of slash symbology there, that's what would be readily available. Now, I would recommend currently, I mean, it is available. If that's what the city wants to look at doing, but I mean, I'd recommend forestry wise, based on how much we've been cutting, that we defer harvest for a few years, a year or two, if that's an option, you know, just to kind of get back in line with sustainable goals. I mean, there's no law saying you got to be sustainable, but that would get us a little more comfortable. But I said the same thing last year, and if we need to do harvest, we certainly can. It's just a matter of we can consider that as an option. I would recommend because we are going to be harvesting one this year, during this year, so we sold it. That would be I'm kind of considering it the 2024 sale, but it also is sort of 25. We'll see $1.5 million in income this year, so.
Have you done any like reports or any data on if we continue to cut at the 60 versus the recommended 50, what that looks like in 5 years, 10 years? What does that do to the overall plan and the sustainability?
You mean more if we continue at 60?
Correct. At some point, right, we're gonna go so far backwards that it's gonna be hard to say.
Well, if we do it at 60 acres a year, what's available now? Say, there's about 100 acres now. So if you cut that, you might get one more year. You're gonna be into a hiatus. So we're gonna end up cutting out and have to wait 3-4 years. And then we'd be fine again for a period. I have not looked at exactly where those breaks would be, but you know, where the rhyme or reason for the 50 per year is if you have 2,000 acres on a 40-year rotation, which is like the bare minimum, you want to be cutting a 40th of the property a year in theory, and then you never run out, you know. So if you did, I'd have to do the math. If you had 2,000 acres divided by 60, you know, you'd be getting more down like in the 30-something year rotation, which isn't really viable. Some of the stands would be merchantable, some wouldn't, but. Even 50 is like right at exactly sustainable. If you're assuming it. And that's another reason if you look at the map of the harvests, the different map I could provide of our thinning history out there. But once we do that 80 acres this year, I think we're completely caught up on everything 20 years and older has been pre-commercially thin. So I'm real conscious that we don't. In fact, the logging's fun, but the reforestation is particularly satisfying when you drive out there and there's all the trees. You don't have to worry. They're all growing. The competition's been taken care of. And then, you know, and then you have a period and then you thin it, but we're always looking to not wake up in 30 years and we have, you know, stands that are falling down and a bunch of brush and nothing's, we're wanting to have, you know, robust, you know, future forest out there. So we've done a lot of intense silviculture to ensure that, you know, we've got a resource perpetually.
Another silly question, but the herbicides, so I'm an environmentally friendly individual, but I'm just curious, have they looked at any more environmentally friendly herbicides for like the Scotch broom and the invasive species, you know?
What we use now, it's called Vastland. It's a broadleaf, kind of like you've heard of crossbow. And it doesn't volatilize. So we've used that. I've worked with timber properties next to farms where it's funny, as much as those nurseries spray, if you're spraying next to them, it's all of a sudden a big thing. So we had one concerned farmer wasn't sure about our spray. So we used this Vastland that would not volatilize and would really minimize his drift, that kind of thing. And of course, most folks could debate that Vastland's also is supposedly not any issue with water being around water. I would never spray over water anyway, but so there are some, I mean, there's still chemicals, but there are some that are more environmentally friendly than others. And some Scotch broom we've taken care of, like if we've gone out to do, so we'll do slashing, hand slashing of brush as well. Like age 5, we just did like, I don't know, 200 acres of that a few years ago. So that's just handwork. At 5 to 10 years old, you go out and cut down the fine maple, hazel, elderberry.
That was our punishment. Old Scotch broom. Just pulling that.
The larger brush, and then if there's broom there, it can be cut by hand. I mean, it can be done that way as well. So we've done pretty big areas for St. Helens by hand as well with the Scotch broom. So that's all I had. Any other questions?
Great report. Thank you so much for all the effort that you put into it.
All right, thank you.
Appreciated. Anybody else had any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Number 6 on our agenda, request from Columbia County Habitat and for Humanity. Thank you guys for your patience. Okay, and then-
I'm Jennifer Anderson. I'm the Executive Director, Columbia County Habitat for Humanity, and this is Anna Dahlman. She is our new Construction Project Coordinator, so we're happy to have her working with us. I really appreciate you carving time out of this busy meeting to have us talk to you. There's a lot of new faces since I last presented here. We've been building a home in Vernonia. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to just talk about what we do. So first of all, the formation of Columbia County Habitat for Humanity, we are independently incorporated. So the way an affiliate is formed is it's a grassroots organization. People from all the different communities in Columbia County got together, formed a steering committee, and submitted an application to Habitat for Humanity International. And we got approved to be a Habitat for Humanity affiliate. And so we have our own board of directors. They don't fund us. We raise all of our own funding. We decide on what projects we want to do. We may put different emphasis on different services than other Habitat affiliates around Oregon. So currently there's 23 affiliates in Oregon. So, I'm going to be talking about home building, and so I'll tell you what we do that's not home building. We have been doing quite a few critical home repairs. We build ramps. We run, a lot of people don't know this, we run an IDA program. State of Oregon has an IDA program that's funded by tax credits, and that's a match savings program. And I found out that other affiliates were using this to help their homeowners save for closing costs. So they would save, it's a 5-to-1 match. So they would save $1,200 and they would get $6,000 from the state on closing their home. And so I looked up, where can you get an IDA? And there was nowhere in Columbia County that you could get an IDA. So we decided that we would offer these to people that were not just Habitat homeowners. So we've been accepting people into the program for home purchase, say for closing costs or home repairs. And at any given time, we have people graduating and claiming their money and people applying. So any given time, we have about 20 IDA clients. We also have been doing some loan packaging with USDA for USDA loans. So when people graduate with their IDA, they need a loan. So we help them package their loan to apply to USDA to get a 502 direct home loan, which is a great loan package because they have subsidized interest for low income people. And they also don't require a down payment. So that's another service that we provide. We have the Restore. We were all volunteer. We started in 1999 and 2013, we opened the Restore, which has raised money for our programs. But we also divert approximately 200 tons of material from the landfill every year. as we take in donations and we sell those and repurpose things, and we take in leftover construction material. So we keep that out of the landfill. And we have opportunities for court-ordered community service there. And as well as people with disabilities will come in and learn basic job skills. Our restore manager is just an amazing person, very nurturing, and does some good basic job training. So I want to tell you a little bit about definitions of affordable housing. So affordable housing is the relationship between income and the cost of housing. So it is, the definition is not paying more than 30% of your gross income for housing. So I think I've seen this kind of repeatedly at different city councils in different towns. You know, a for-profit builder will come in and they say, we're going to build affordable housing. And so the first question really is, who is this affordable for? So if you're talking about workforce housing, that is 80 to 120% of the median income. And somebody may build housing for that income range. Low income is considered 80% of the area median income and below. And 50% is considered very low income. So we serve people that are between 35 and 60% of the median income. And I would say the majority of our clients kind of fall in between 40% and 50% of the median income. So these people are lot of single income families, single mothers. They're bank tellers, people that work, you know, caregivers in nursing homes. They work for nonprofits. Those kind of our client niche right there. So there's a huge lack of starter homes. I don't know if anybody that's been out looking for a home to buy in this market. There's not a whole lot of starter homes, but I don't usually consider what we're building as starter homes, even though they kind of look like starter homes, because families put so much time and effort into it. They need to contribute 400 hours of sweat equity, and they really get in there and they get involved, and they're really partners. We're partners with them in building their home. And so all of our I hear this phrase over and over again, this is my forever home. And they do, they stay in that home for a long time. So the way we make this affordable is we help them get a USDA loan for what they can afford. And then we have to subsidize the rest, because people in this income range, they're not going to get a loan for the full appraised value of the home that we're building, even though it's a modest home. It just can't be done. So we have a second mortgage, and that gets forgiven incrementally. They don't ever make any payments on that. But the second mortgage and the first mortgage equal the appraised value. And the beauty of this model really is that they can't move in and flip the house. And it also, if they decide they don't want to live there, that we can, it gives us a discount for buying it back and placing another family in the home. So it's, I didn't think of this model, but I've just, you know, once I got more involved with Habitat for Humanity, I thought, wow, this really makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to talk about our next project here. We're going to go straight to Scappoose and work on 10 townhomes there after Vernonia, but we got this lot donation, and we're really excited to be building back in St. Helens, because I feel that people here really value affordable housing. It's so this lot it should be included in your packet. We have already gotten a variance. There's a very small building envelope because of the stormwater and the sewer line there. And there's a big gap between where the pavement actually is for the road and the front of the property line. So this lot and the proposed house that we want to build. Cute little house, but it's no garage. It's only about 1,000 square feet. And when Anna at these estimates. They'd gone up since we'd been in built our last home in St. Helens. I just kind of as a amusing fact here is the first house that we built in St. Helens was in 2001. And it cost us $18,000 to build that house. We had part of it was because people were very excited about, oh, Habitat for Humanity is here and they're gonna donate their, professional services and materials and stuff. But our building costs are much, much higher now. And historically, the city has helped us out with the fees, which you really appreciate. I think at some point, we realized that the city was expected to backfill the SDCs if they were going to waive the fees. So they had been waived without backfilling it. So my request, it seems like at that point, the city was reluctant to just, waive everything. I am asking for half off the SDCs though, because these are flat fees. And so if you have a flat fee and you're building something that's 2,000 square feet, it's a certain price per square foot. If it's half that size, then you've doubled your cost per square foot. So I feel that the fee is really excessively high for a tiny little house like this. The sidewalk fee, my understanding is that you don't need to backfill if you forgive this. And so the city has been always, I think for every house that we've requested the sidewalk fee in lieu waiver, the city has been very helpful in forgiving that. Have any questions? I think you need to pull it from another part of the budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, this STC funds need to be made whole for the statute. And the STC obligations away.
So it comes out of like the community development fund or something.
Comes from somewhere else in the budget.
The sidewalk fee is our own thing, and that's why if we wanted to just waive that, we can't without the mandate to backfill.
Didn't have any questions. I thought it was really comprehensive.
Me as well.
Counselor Sundin, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Thank you for being here. Because we're still.
I'd like to move this to this evening.
Yeah.
Under work session
We'll move
action
it to-
item.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So number 7, semi-annual library department report.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to brag about the library and all the things we're doing. 21 slides in this deck, so I'm just gonna hit the highlights and try to focus a little bit on some of the really key pieces of information I'd like to share with you. So here's our strategic plan. We're about halfway through. We have a board subcommittee that's working right now on reviewing, looking at how we're doing, what steps we need to take next to move forward. So we're doing well. There's a few bits and pieces that I'll talk about later that we're working on. Oops, building use. There you go. Great. So 65,737 building visits in 2024. Here's the hours that we are open. We'd like to just point out that those building visits have increased substantially. We can thank the Makerspace being open for that because those don't get counted in the library visits in our counter. Lots more programs in the in the meeting rooms, and just more folks coming in the building in general. I think, COVID, it's sort of had its hand still on people coming into community spaces, but we're really seeing a change in that to people being more comfortable. A library use, we're very proud of the fact that we had a 24% increase between 2023 and 2024 in visits to the library. Again, you know, we've got, we have people returning from COVID. Youth programming is back up and running. Lots of word of mouth. We love to hear when people come into the library and say, oh, my friend reminded me that I've lived here 13 years and I haven't gotten my library card yet. So we're hearing a lot of that kind of stuff. And then our public computers, we have 7 available and we're seeing much more use of those public computers for a variety of reasons. Just a little note on the patrons per hour. You'll see that bump up in the middle of the day there. That's when we have our kiddos programs, lots of people coming into the library to browse, check out materials, use the public computers, and then quieting down at the end of the day, that 1900 to 2000 hours. That's just a blip because we've had a couple of programs that have come in and stayed late. Library staffing. So our paid staff per capita is 0.4. We have 3,204 registered patrons and 21% of our population has a library card. One of the things that we were reading about recently, Gen Z is really using the library, and we can see that in the types of community members that are coming into the library to use the library. The other thing that we offer is an online card, which is quite limited, but gives folks the access to databases, some of that other stuff that they can't if they can't get into the library proper. Reference questions answered. That's everything from, can you help me find a book about cats to I'm digging into some family genealogy and I'd love to know if you can help us find a book about a family member that we haven't been able to track down ourselves. So samples of library resources, we have 42,000 plus items owned. And last year in 2024, that's calendar 2024, we lent out 65,000, almost 66,000 items. Very popular items are a library of things. We have mobile hotspots, which give folks that don't have access to internet, they can use it for entertainment, working. Lots of folks use it for schoolwork and that kind of thing. Those check out almost, there's always a waiting list for those items. The telescope, hand tools, air fryer, of course, very popular right now, and baking tools. Lots of families coming in, especially homeschool families with those looking for those robotics and other kinds of sort of teaching tools. Of course, we have the online databases, lots more folks coming in using Libby, which is our online e-reader, reader audiobooks and magazines. We just added a magazine feature to our Libby, the Libby database, which gives our patrons access to about 2,000 magazines online. And then, as I mentioned, the 7 public computers. Lots of folks coming in right now, printing out resumes. We've really seen an uptick in that. And then, of course, this time of year, people are looking for tax forms and filing court documents, and then just for fun. All right, well, we've talked a lot about the makerspace, so I won't spend too much time talking about it, except to say that we expect to have those new spaces open probably by the end of March. We're in there right now working with the Columbia Learning Center board in they're going through the materials that they have there. We're pulling some of those. We're going to be able to keep some of the tables and some of the other stuff that we'll be able to repurpose that they have for us. They're moving their things out. We have a board member and a community member that have formed a committee to do some fundraising so that we can pay for the things that we need, like the project tables and more tables, some more equipment. Also, we're taking this opportunity to renovate the existing makerspace, just a couple of things. We're going to expand the sinks that we have. Right now, we have one sort of standard kitchen size sink. We're gonna build 2 in there. We're getting a lot of help from Public Works. So a lot of that work will be done by them. We'll need to find the fundraise funds for the items themselves. And then the small office that's closest to the hallway, we've already moved our recording equipment in there so folks can use that as a sound studio. And then the other piece is that we'll be moving all of our local history materials. We have about, I think we have 500 books, magazines, very old materials or materials that are really rare that we have stored in my office and in another couple of places. We're going to move those into that room. We've got some lock-in cabinets coming so that we can make those those materials better accessible, more accessible to our patrons. And then Brenda, who's our patron services librarian, and that's her collection. We'll have some office hours for her in that space so people can come and use those materials when they would like to. So very, very excited about this. We're moving forward very quickly. So you see that we had 111 users between October and December 2024. In January, we had 105 users of the Makerspace. So we are just going gangbusters. We had 23 of those. 23 were introductory appointments where they made it, they had scheduled an appointment with Jana just to kind of come in and find out what's going on and then come back and use some of those things. And then we had, oh, and then I just wanted to point out that we have Friday afternoon open hours have been crazy busy. We've had 19, 20 people in there at a time. And the really, really great thing about this Makerspaces is not only are they coming in to use our stuff and to get help from Jana, but they're helping each other. It's really great to watch folks in there, you know, problem solving with each other. Oh, you're doing this project. Why are you doing that? Da, 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 da. Sharing that information. The fellow that's in this photo is Spencer. He's one of our wonderful volunteers. That is a 3D printer that he just donated to the library. It's about a $2,000 item. And he's helping us. He's helping patrons. He comes in a couple of times a week. Spends time helping Jana troubleshoot with equipment and also helping patrons. And that nifty little tray you see there, he 3D printed that with his new printer. And now it's attached to the table there. So there's a place for the materials that they need, the tools. Programming, just a quick overview, lots of certification classes. Those programs are growing, especially the Glowforge and the 3D printer. All of those other programs are growing, the regular programs. And then, as I said, those open hours are really getting to be very popular. New program, newish program. I think I talked about this the last time I was here. We're partnering with the OSU Master Gardeners group to offer a seed exchange. It's free. They're helping manage it. They're collecting the seeds. People will be coming into the library to drop stuff off. They organize it all. They've got a database, a spreadsheet that they have online. So we encourage folks to come in and donate their seeds. And of course, take the seeds and enjoy them in their own gardens. They're also talking to us about doing some work in the courtyard to develop some specialized gardens, like a pollinator garden and some other things like that. And then some additional programming. So kiddos, that's always the most fun. That little toddler there was choosing her own board books. She was there for about 5 minutes, pulling books off and handing them to her mom or telling her mom about it in words that we don't understand yet. She was talking. We've had to move our toddler program to the auditorium because we just didn't have space in the children's area anymore. So Jana's doing a great job of building that program. And just wonderful opportunities for early literacy guidance and also for families just to get to know each other and get to know the library. We have a growing teen anime group that's growing. The Lego free play, lots of fun for families just to come in. And I think we have to have more than 2,000 Legos. So there's plenty of stuff to play with there. And then, of course, we're getting ready for Summer Library Challenge. That'll start in June. And I think I have a little bit about Summer Library Challenge later. And then we're continuing to do more outreach. Adult programs, monthly programs, book club, arts and crafts, or excuse me, adults and crafts. And then every other month, Brenda does a genealogy group. Our book club is run by one of our wonderful library assistants. Her background is in teaching high school English. So she does a really wonderful job, not only of selecting the materials, but also leading those groups. She's become very popular. And then this coming year, we have our biannual genealogy conference that will be in September. I'll tell you more about that later in the year. Here's the Summer Library Challenge, just a quick overview of what we had last year. And we've talked about this in the past, so we won't spend any more time on it. But it will be a very similar program as we always do. We'll have special programs for families. We'll do some adult programs. And then the challenge to challenge families to grown-ups and kids to read and get their wonderful prizes and the satisfaction of reading. So we do all of this with 6.1 FTEs. Of course, my position, the patron services librarian that I was mentioning, Brenda, she does everything from the genealogy. She does deep research. She's responsible for managing the collection of nonfiction materials. Jan, our youth and makerspace librarian, she's spending 40% of her time in the makerspace and 60% of her time in the youth, doing youth services and mostly running back and forth. And she's very, very busy. We try to give her a break whenever we can. Our library technician, Nicole, she's the person that takes all of those materials that come into the library. She has to catalog each one of those, goes into our catalog. They're prepared for putting onto the shelves with our volunteers. She also manages the adult fiction collection. She is the only person in the state, or excuse me, in the county that has her technical experience and knowledge. So we're very grateful and lucky to have her. And then 4 wonderful library assistants who are 0.5 each. They're the people that you see when you walk in the front door. And they are the folks that help you with everything from finding books to getting a new library card and working on your resume on your computer. Services, just an overview of the kinds of things that we do when we're serving the community. One new thing I'll just point out, a couple things, is we are now able to hand out Narcan. We have it behind our front desk, and folks, fairly often come and get it. We get it free from the county public health department, so it's not an expense to us, but we do have folks that come in, either coming in knowing that we have it or seeing it when they're checking out and asking for some. And then our teen hours, we just changed that. And gosh, we're seeing a nice influx of teens coming and hanging out, lots of kids doing homework, young people doing homework, and just being in that space. Just a quick overview that we're always updating our staffing. We did the mandatory reporters. We just refreshed that recently. We've been trained on how to use Narcan. We've gotten some training from CCMH Crisis Line on how we can support our community, how we can, when to help, how to know to help, when to call them, de-escalation, that kind of thing, training, which we use and we think is very, very important to our community. Improving frontline service, cybersecurity, and of course the city has a number of requirements that we do. Just a reminder that our Small Business Resources Corner is up and going. We collaborate with SBDC on this one. We did get some funding from Grow Greater St. Helens to purchase. We got the magazine. We spent $1,000 on that magazine subscription I was telling you about, and then the other $1,000 expanding this collection. We're hoping to get another gift from them as well in the near future, so we can add more materials to that. We see more small business owners and entrepreneurs coming in. We just had a guy the other day asking about a business card, which you can get if you own a library, a business in the city. We have some nice connections to the makerspace. We have folks coming from the makerspace over here and back and forth. And then there's a nice small space there if people want to meet just a couple of people at a time. We're very grateful to our library board. Here's the list of our board members. As I said, we have a couple of subcommittees working on strategic plan and some other issues that are coming before the board. And just a reminder that the library was the cooling center, the building was a cooling center last year, and we expect to continue to do that, provide that service. We had 27 volunteers in 2024. The value of those hours to the library is about $31,000. Those are tasks that we don't have time to do, but that are essential. Shelving materials, checking book order on the shelves, book repair. As I said, they are the ones that prepare items to go on the shelf. We couldn't do our work without them. Our Friends of St. Helens Library, organization that's affiliated with the library, of course. They were very generous in purchasing our newest Glowforge for the makerspace. They fund our summer library programs, book club books, and a whole variety of other things. They also have those bookshelves as you're coming in the library, sell those items. All of the money that they raise goes back to the library. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't know about is they have 4 little libraries in town that they keep stocked. And then they also donate books to WIC and Broadleaf Arbor and some other places around town. They make sure that those bookshelves stay stacked. And then 23 in count and counting community partners. You'll see a few categories here. We, other city departments, of course, some county departments like public health, business community, guilds, clubs and the ukulele group and a lot of community service organizations. We're really proud of the partnerships that we have with our community. And you can see there that we get a lot of community support and we're able to support them as well. And finally, I just want to share one thing with you. We talk about the community living room and it's hard to maybe imagine what I mean. So here's what I mean. I went up to the front desk the other day and this is what I saw. The children's library, we had 10 little ones, babies with their grown-ups. They just finished a program. They soaked up all that early literacy and now they were sitting and talking to each other, grown-ups making connections, the babies playing together. There were 3 people in the public computers. One of our staff had just helped them find a tax form that they were looking for. We had people browsing for books in the library and DVDs. We had folks checking things out and getting one. There was a person there getting a new card. And then in our hallway, we had folks working using our Wi-Fi. We had a few folks in there that just needed to stay warm and they were in the library. And then we had a crafting group in the meeting room. So when we say community's living room, that's what we mean. We are a space for so many people in ways that you might not think about otherwise. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
My pleasure.
Forge.
Glowforge, oh, laser cutter. So for example, this was made with the Glowforge.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you and that I was just, while you were doing this, just thinking about how fortunate we are to have such a robust library program that's so well connected. So thank you for all your hard work and please tell your staff that we really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Absolutely will. Thank you. That'll mean a lot. I appreciate it.
I feel the same way. I was thinking the same thing. This is great. How excited she is.
Amazing, aren't we? It's amazing what we can do with this small group of people. And, I know I say this a lot, but it is a group of really dedicated public servants. They really care about the community and they really help each other out too. So
Shows.
we're proud of them.
It shows.
Good, I'm glad.
So much.
Thank you very much.
Right, number 8, review proposal, Mason, Bruce and Garrard, for forestry management service.
All right,
What's up, Bill?
thank you, Mayor. This is almost as exciting as a library report.
Could there be something?
No, this, in all seriousness, we did, best practices to do RFPs from time to time, and the time was passed, so we did as per proposals for forest management services. Mason Bruce Gerard was the only respondent in that. They've done an outstanding job for the almost 20 years that they've worked here. And probably get a little bit of a clock back on the schedule here. Recommend that tonight you approve your contract.
We'll move it to tonight. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for our city administrator on this RFP?
It's essentially a time and materials, and you put a price in there, but it's based off a fee schedule. We're just establishing them as the our forester and business as usual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Counselor Sundin, did you have any questions?
I don't. I've been pleased with their services since I've been here and always look forward to Brent and his presentation. So no questions. So.
Right, we did make up some time. All right. So we are in number 8, discussion regarding stipends for council members. City administrator.
I hadn't planned on it. Perhaps Ashley, would you like to?
Well, I can answer any questions about this. I wasn't sure what, I'm happy to answer any questions. I could, if there are proposals to change the counselor stipends, I could talk about that. Would you like me to start with that concept?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll lay the background is that our current practice is that the council receives stipends and it's indexed to the city or the county commissioner's salary. And so it's 15% to the mayor, 12% to the president and 10% for the 3 other councilors. And any changes to that is the discussion. So
Okay.
what that process might.
And it started, just the other back history is because I'm going to be donating mine to a nonprofit for Sarah Zuber. So I was going to decrease mine. You know, my suggestion was leave Council President Chilton's where she was at with 12. And then I would be 10% with the rest of the council and they would get so we would all be even.
Okay, good. Well, I can speak a little bit to the state law on, basically public officials, are subject to what is known as conflict of interest rules. And a conflict of interest occurs when any public official is participating in their official capacity, whether it's an action, a decision, or a recommendation, the effect of which would be or could be a private financial benefit or detriment to the public official, the public official's relative, or any business that they're associated with. And I bring that up because council compensation is, when we're talking about increasing or decreasing council compensation, that would create a conflict of interest if they were to vote on whether or not to increase or even to decrease the compensation they're getting. And so generally the law is if a counselor is going to make a decision on something that's going to have a financial benefit or a detriment, that would be a conflict of interest, and they would be required to disclose that conflict of interest at the public meeting. And also they would have to recuse themselves from voting on it because they don't want, unless that decision is something that would not impact them. So for example, if a counselor was going to vote on council compensation for the future counselors, they could do that. So after their term expired, they would be allowed to vote to change council compensation for the future counselors. But they wouldn't not be able to vote on council compensation that would impact themselves. They would be voting on something that they have a conflict of interest, and the law doesn't allow that. So one way that cities have gotten past this is that they would usually council compensation could be in a charter, or if it's not, be referred to the voters. So they would vote, they could vote on a measure that would be referred, they would vote on council compensation and be referred to the voters who would then approve whether it's an increase or decrease in council compensation. So basically, it's kind of a long process to change council compensation. That being said, I don't see any problem with taking your council compensation and donating it. And so that is just a discretionary decision that you could do.
Yeah, I already knew that from the Oregon Ethics Board. I already knew that piece, but it's thinking of if in fact we're voting on the budget too, that our stipends come out of, right? Because you're voting on that as well. That's
But we're not changing it.
we're not changing.
It's
it.
already in place.
You can, you
This
can't,
would be a change
do this.
that we would be approving.
If you're trying to change council compensation that's already been established in a resolution, that would be a conflict of interest. And so you
The
could do that.
budget is not
Yeah.
because it's
It's already done. Yep. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
And this is really not an issue.
It's
You
not
can
an
just
issue.
donate
It was just a nice gesture to, it's. a
if we
nice-
wanted to restructure it, it
Yeah.
would be an
it.
issue.
Not doing
Yeah,
that.
be a structure. Yep. So thank you for answering that. Counselor Sundin, do you have any questions?
Nope, I appreciate the information.
Yeah, thank you for providing that. Okay, we're making it even more time here. All right, so we are on to 10, review proposed changes of executive session media attendance policy. Okay.
You, Ashley?
Gonna come sit and present to you. Got my notes. So good evening, good afternoon, almost evening, Mayor and councilors. My name is Ashley Wygott. I'm presenting from the City Attorney's Office. On the council agenda today is a draft policy for the executive session news media attendance policy. And I want to emphasize this is a draft policy for consideration. It's not for voting on, it's not on the agenda for this evening's meeting. And so comments that some of the citizens made or any comments you have are welcome to be incorporated, and that's the intent, that this is a draft. So my goal today is just to provide you background information about the executive session news media attendance law, reasons why updates to the policy could be useful, and then describe what those recommended updates would be, and then open it up to any questions. The ORS 192.6604 provides that representatives of the news media shall be allowed to attend executive sessions other than certain express times when they're excluded, such as when there are labor negotiations or when a school board is holding a meeting about certain student records. But the governing body may require that those in attendance they may require that specified information must be undisclosed or may not be disclosed. Now, this law applies to representatives of the news media, and people can come before City Council and apply to be representatives of news media and show that, demonstrate their credentials. And that's what this policy outlines. But representatives of the news media, for the purpose of this law, is not defined. And the Attorney General, because it's not defined, the Attorney General has provided guidance for cities and counties and for other public bodies to use when evaluating applications for who's considered a representative of the news media. So the guidance that the Attorney General has provided is that someone who gathers news and is formally affiliated, whether through employment, contract, or as an agent with an institutional media entity, is a representative of the news media. It's important to know that this guidance does not, it's limited to this guidance is not intended to define who is media in any other context. So we're not saying that other people aren't news media. It's just that in this context, people that are applying to attend the city's executive session, they must follow this limited, narrowed version of who's considered media. So again, the three factors are they have to gather news, be formally affiliated through employment, contract, or as an agent with an institutional media entity. Institutional news media entities are typically what you think of when you think of traditional news media outlets like the Oregonian or the Spotlight. A distinction for a traditional media outlet is that they have news gatherers, reporters, and they also have opinion rooms, editorials, and those are two distinct categories. The reporters gather the news and don't generally have opinions about the news, and then you have the opinion editorial boards. And so that's typically how an institutional news entity is structured. And that's who's typically considered an institutional news entity. The Attorney General has provided guidance that short of a formal affiliation with a traditional news media outlet, cities can look at certain guidance about other factors to determine whether an applicant is institutional. And we're going to talk about what those other factors are in a second. I just wanted to provide some just basic background on executive sessions. Probably know this, and I'll do this quickly. But governing bodies, so when can an executive session be held? Governing bodies and a city council is a governing body are authorized to hold executive sessions or closed sessions that are not open to the public in 16 circumstances, but generally only 12 apply for cities. And the most common for cities are to consider employment, to consider discipline, to consider labor negotiations, to discuss real property transactions, to discuss records that are exempt from public disclosure, and to discuss litigation or pending litigation with counsel. What sessions can news media attend and which can they be excluded from? So representatives are allowed to attend all but 2 types of executive sessions and and there's one limited circumstance. So the 2 sessions that news media are excluded from are conducting deliberations with labor or an executive session by a school board to discuss student records, as I said, which doesn't necessarily apply to cities. But also when city council meets to discuss litigation, news media shall be excluded if the news organization that the reporter represents is a party to the litigation that's being discussed. So what are the limitations that are placed on media when they attend an executive session? Governing bodies may prohibit news organizations from disclosing certain specified information. And at the start of an executive session, city councilor, mayor, or who's leading the meeting announces which information may not be disclosed. And this is really important. Why a news media policy and the review of the applications is important is because, excuse me, I skipped a part. So the start of the session, city council can announce which information may not be disclosed, but it's important to note that there's no penalty for a news organization for reporting on a portion of the executive session, which the city asks to be kept confidential. So it's a real trust situation between the media and the city council. And it's for that reason that the news media policy and the application of the Attorney General guidance is important, so that both the city has the right to have their secure closed meeting sessions when the law allows, and the news media is allowed to have access under certain conditions and limitations. So that's kind of background information on the law and why the Attorney General guidance factors are important. The city has a news media policy in place, but these Attorney General guidance factors are not included in the news media policy. Not having that guidance doesn't mean the city can't apply those factors. But what's useful about having the Attorney General's guidance in the media policy is that it lets the public know, it lets applicants know, and it lets city council know how their application will be reviewed and what the factors will be considered, so that they know what the law is and what to expect when they submit their application. So then that turns to the substance of the news media application, if you have a draft in front of you. But section 1 provides an opportunity for a city council to specify the traditional media outlets that it is aware of. And as one of the public commenters mentioned, there were some suggestions for radio news entities to consider. And so this is a draft. I know the Oregonian is specified and Spotlight is already applied and they've been specified. Section 2 then provides the criteria that city council would look at, and when someone who's not on that list already in section 1 wants to apply and attend executive session. So section 2 is lists a number of factors, and then it also adds the Attorney General guidance at that time. One thing that I mentioned earlier, the Attorney General guidance requires that an applicant have a formal affiliation with institutional media, news media through employment, contract, or some other authorization with that institutional news media entity. And I think it's important to know that the contract that we're talking about is a contract where they are reporting on news on behalf of that institutional news media entity. They don't necessarily have a contract to provide advertising or other types of service, or if they have a program on a news media entity, if they're not gathering news on behalf of that news media entity, that doesn't meet the criteria for being formally affiliated with that institutional news media entity. But the Attorney General provides also that if a news gatherer does not have a formal affiliation with the Oregonian or with Spotlight, they can still demonstrate by certain factors that they are an institutional entity. And the Attorney General lays out, well, they can have a formal they must have, well, let me back up. the Attorney General has guidance for what the city council would look at to determine, is this entity or is this applicant an institutional media entity that should qualify to attend executive session? Some of the factors you would look at is if they have a formally organized business structure that's organized for the purpose of gathering news. Do they have the existence of staff versus a single individual? And these are just factors, so it's something that you could look at. So even if you would look at that and make a decision about if they have an institutional structure. Do they have regular and continuous publications of news? Do they have a commitment and demonstrated structure to support the non-disclosure of information, which is required under ORS 192.664? And then another final criteria is, do they have a process in place for reporting conflicts of interest and correcting errors and including violations of executive sessions by a person with authority to take corrective measures? By that, I mean, does the applicant have a structure in place that a traditional media entity has? They might not be in the mainstream media business, but they have a news structure in place, just like a traditional media entity outlet has. So those are the above criteria that are recommended to add to the policy, because it can help provide transparency about what factors city council would be looking at when a applicant applies to attend executive session. The new policy also requires an applicant to submit their application. It's proposed that they would submit their application 30 days in advance of the executive session that they wanted to attend, and that the city would reply within 15 days of receiving the application, giving them the basis for their session. And that's presuming that there's a council meeting to provide that information. The reason for this is so that there is a process in place and there's a timeline for the city to review these applications. And people know that they can't apply and then expect to be admitted on the same day that they would apply to attend the session. Lastly, there is a provision in the new media policy that if a person's status changes, they would be required to notify the city that I'm no longer a news gatherer and I won't be attending executive sessions anymore. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions or clarifications?
The only question I have is that the information came out of the AG's opinion as well as the manual. Is that correct?
Yes, so there was a 2016 opinion that provided a lot of information, including legislative history on the public meetings law. And then in 2024, there was an update to the manual that incorporated some of that information in a more clear way.
I just want to clarify that if someone is paying for airtime on an institutionalized radio or media, that is not considered being connected structurally to that institution.
That in itself wouldn't be considered an institutional, being formally affiliated with an institutional news media entity. I'm happy to, I think there were some comments and continue to look at the policy and can bring it back forward for consideration.
No action tonight.
No action tonight, that's it. Thank you.
I appreciate all the on this and all the research.
You're welcome.
Councilor Sundin, do you have anything?
I don't, thank you.
Smokes, we made it. Number 11, city.
Yeah, in the interest of time, Mayor, I'd like to hold my report over to the evening meeting we have.
Perfect.
We're meeting at 6 o'clock. set the room up for a joint meeting and break it back down again between the evening meetings, so.
And we need to try to eat somewhere in there.
Perfect. So we'll move that to the evening meeting. Okay.
that'd be most-
So are we ready to adjourn? Yeah. So, we're gonna be adjourning this meeting and then, we are gonna be moving into an executive session. You want me to read this now? I just want to make sure I don't mess this up. Do I need to read this whole?
You only have to read what's on the agenda.
Goes to the backside.
Okay, so we're going to, following the conclusion of the council work session and executive session is going to take place. And we're going to be discussing consideration information for records that are exempt by the law from public inspection under ORS 19.6602F and consult with council potential litigation under ORS 19.6622H.
And you said E. Did real property.
Well, I asked John earlier, he said no, but I'll say it. So real property transactions under ORS 196602E. Right, John?